All right, they're giving us that 1 and 3 are equal to each other. Angles 1 and 3 are equal, and also angles 2 and 4 are equal to each other. And they want us to conclude that BC is congruent to ED. BC, that, is congruent to ED, that. So strategy. The way I'm going to do this, most likely, is to show that I have two congruent triangles, and then those are corresponding parts of congruent triangles. So most likely that's my last step, because I've done so many of these problems. The more you do, the more you recognize, oh look, I'm looking for parts. Those aren't triangles they're asking for, there's parts. So the second to last step, so if we were to write these out, my proof, sometimes you can almost start at the end. It's going to be CPCTC. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. And so the one right before it is going to probably be that this triangle right here is congruent to this triangle right here. And so that's where I'm going, and that's what I want to get to, so I'm going to come up with a strategy to do that. All right, so let's try to figure out, let's come up with a game plan. Well, first of all, I see that I have 2 and 4, those angles. You see how angle 2 and angle 4 are equal to each other? See on the blue triangle, angle 4 is like on the yellow triangle, angle 2. I also want to show that this bigger triangle, or this bigger angle right here, 3 plus 4, is like, see on the yellow triangle, that's like that's one of the angles on the yellow triangle. And you see how 1 plus 2 is one of the angles on the blue triangle. So I want to show that those are equal to each other. This is my game plan. And I'm also going to show that that side CD, see how it's shared by the yellow and the blue triangles? I'm going to show that those are. So I'm going to use my second to last, and again, I can even kind of go backwards with these. I'm going to say angle, side, angle. That's going to be my reason that triangle CBD is congruent to, notice I started with C and I went up that way, CBD. So it's going to be congruent to CBD, DEC. That's going to be my second to last reason. All right. Again, this is just the way I think of it, because I know when I look at a problem, it's like a chess match, a game of chess, and I'm trying to think a couple steps ahead. So I know where it is that I'm going, and it kind of helps me get there. And sometimes for problems like this, you can even see the last two steps. You know those have to be your last two steps. So now let's get to those points. Well, first of all, let's put the given down. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 3, and angle 2 is congruent to angle 4. And those are given. We'll just write that for 1. All right, number 2, we're going to state that angle 1 plus angle 2 1 plus 2 is congruent to angle 3 plus angle 4. And what's the reason for that? Okay, I'm going to say the reason is that the addition property. I added, depending on your teacher, what your teacher allows, your teacher might say, oh no, you can't jump to that conclusion. You first have to show, like your teacher might have wanted you to say first this. Let me just do it the longer way. See how I added the same thing to both 1 and 3? I'm just adding the same thing to both 1 and 3. See how angle 1 is equal to angle 3? So if I add 2 to 1 and I add 2 to 3, they're going to be equal to each other. And then step 3 would be angle 1 plus angle 2 is congruent to angle 3 plus angle 4. Whoops. And that would be the substitution property. Because I'm now substituting, what did I substitute in? Instead of writing 2 the second time, I wrote in 4. Why? Because 2 and 4 are equal to each other. So the substitution property says that I can write 4 anytime I see 2, angle 4 anytime I see angle 2. Now, your teacher might not require you to do both of those steps. Your teacher might say, oh no, you can combine steps 2 and 3 into one step and just call it the addition property. But really, it's the addition and the substitution property combined together. Okay? So why would I do that? Well, because now I see that, I'm going to write number 4. For number 4, I'm going to write that CD is congruent to CD. And why does CD congruent to CD?
Reflexive property.
That's the reflexive property. So now I have an angle. Well, I can be a little bit more specific about this right here. Again, your teacher may or may not want you to write this specifically, but what do angle 1 and 2 add up to? They add up to the angle DCB. That's that angle right there. 1 and 2 add up to DCB, right? And then 3 and 4 add up to CDE. All I'm doing is basically naming those two angles. Those angles are DCB and those angles are... So I maybe should have written that as reason 4. I should have maybe written that before CD equals CD. You see that? So the reason I did that again is just, again, your teacher might not make you say that, but I wanted to be able to say, eventually what I wanted to be able to say is I have an angle here, see that angle 2? And you see that angle 3 plus 4? 3 plus 4 is this one. So, and then this is my side down here. So I'm using angle side angle. I'm using angle side angle to show that those two are equal to each other. Those two are congruent to each other. Your teacher might not expect you to do that, but that's technically what maybe your book would expect you to do.